Every document that transpired between them is in our possession, lodged in libraries across the world. Whatever they choose to do is already too late to be able to reverse the actions that have been initiated to salvage ourselves from what they've landed us into. Now, having reached that agreement, I'm sure some of us recall when the Caliphate was talking about dipping their Quran into the Atlantic Ocean. That is, they were telling the British at the time this matter of Nigeria, because it was for them a matter of conquest. That is, they had to conquer. But the British came with something else. They said, well, whenever you guys are done with whatever you came to do, we'll push on until we dip our Quran into the Atlantic Ocean. Anybody here ever heard about that? Wonderful. Now, the document of the amalgamation was one in which, I'm sure, who are the ones from South Africa here? Good. The apartheid, what the Boers did in South Africa was exactly what the Fulani did with their British friends over our heads here to make this place their own over the heads of the owners of all the lands. A master-servant relationship. This is an excerpt from a telegram from the Secretary for the Colonies explaining what they were about to do, because they didn't tell anybody in southern Nigeria that they were going to lump us together with the people of the north. The discussion was strictly between them and that caliphate. It was a German newspaper that leaked it for the first time on the 26th of December in 1913. It took almost 15 years of day and night exchanges, meetings, travels to piece together all those parcels of land that came under those treaties. They didn't tell them where it was all going. Everybody thought they were still, the Shekiri thought they were still in their treaty. The Lagos Colony thought they were still in their treaty. Everybody, the British was tiptoeing over their head, merging them. It was in 1906 that they merged the entire southern territories to become the protectorate of southern Nigeria. From that 1906, they then began to merge the systems, two mortally opposed civilizations, because on the other side, Sharia was already in place. They came as jihad. How do you create one political union with a group that owes it a duty of faith to kill the infidel? That duty never changes. No matter how you settle all the other things, the duty will never go away. You are the infidel, you have to be killed. They have a right in that their faith to lie to you. They call it taqiyya. They deceive you into thinking you are in another business until you get killed. And they are also of a feudalist worldview. You know what feudalism is? All men are not born equal. No matter what you do, what you achieve, you are no more than the slave you are to them, even if they have nothing or no education. Between the two, a terrible alchemy that as a slave, you dare not compete with your master for the ownership or control of whatever. The slave does not have a right to anything, no right to property, not even right to life. You can do away with your slave. Kill your slave. And that was the civilization that was already in place. And the British knew. But they were also, they too were, what do we call them? They were feudalists too. And one thing led to the other. Eventually, they were able to piece it all together. That I'm now reading from that cablegram. Secretary of State, Secretary for the Colonies, his name was Harcourt, the one after which Port Harcourt was named. He says, in explaining what was about to happen the day before it did come public, that we have released northern Nigeria from the leading strings of the treasury. The promising and well-conducted youth is now on an allowance of his own and is about to effect an alliance with the Southern Lady of Means. I have issued the special license, and Sir Frederick Lugard will perform the ceremony. May the union be fruitful and the couple constant. Secretary for the colonies, Lord Harcourt, boss of Lord Frederick Lugard, referring to the import and purport of the annexation of the then Protectorate of Southern Nigeria to the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria. So what they reported to you as amalgamation, as if there was some coming together of equals, was actually an annexation. And the purpose, what the British came to do, back to that map, please. Back to the map where what the British came in search of were all on this axis. But the people they met here provided resistance. You know what they call resistance? They fought and fought and fought to make a landing. I'm sure there are Yoruba people here. I'm sure some of you have had your song many, many times. If I begin it, will you be able to join me to end it? It begins, Eyo, 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 bantawa, ton fi góòlù ń ṣeré, àwa ò lè sanwó ní bòde, òdìlé. The clause I want you to take from it, àwa ò lè sanwó ní bòde, òdìlé. Your great-grandfathers fought the British for years and years, preventing them from landing. And your song you sang now was the victory song composed. We will never pay custom duty to these foreigners on our waters. Today, 58 years into your independence, you are paying that customs religiously to people from this part. And from independence to date, not one of you had ever qualified to be Controller General of Customs. Now, I can give you up to 20 of these kind of examples. Who has ever been to Lagos Island, the Victoria Island here? Does anybody know where Bonny Camp is? Does anybody know where Eco Hotel is? The road that goes from the front of Bonny Camp to Eco Hotel, what's the name of that road? Ahmadu Bello Way. When you stand on Ahmadu Bello Way, is there any other thing to do to go to the ocean? You are on the last firm piece of land before the Atlantic. Have they not dipped their Quran into the Atlantic? Who collects the rent? The landlord or whoever? It's not the landlord that collects the rent. They take away over 2 trillion from these port operations every year. I won't call it misfortune. It so happened that a few months after Tinubu handed over to Fashola, we were at an event. He sat next to me. He was to speak before me. He finished, and I took over the microphone, and I asked him, say, Governor Emeritus, in the 8 years you were governor here, what was the maximum sum you got from federal allocation? He was quick to remember. There was 73 billion naira. I had documents with me in that event showing that in all those 8 years, Nigeria did not take away anything less than 1.6 trillion as from port operation alone. 10% of 1.6 trillion is 160 billion. 5% therefore, 80 billion. Lagos getting 73 billion in the maximum meant that Lagos in those 8 years did not get even 5% of what Nigeria was taking away from their place. The event collapsed. It was at Blue Roof in Ikeja here. The event collapsed when, amidst all that noise, because I had come to tell them what we were doing, that if we do not act together to recover this land, you are not only going to remain the slaves you have been since that time, they will kill you and take your land and become the new owners to eliminate future claims.